Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Carolyn Cross, and I'm the founder and CEO of Ondine Biomedical Inc., a company based in Vancouver. For the past 17 years, my team of dedicated engineers and scientists, largely funded by me and my husband, Bob Cross, have created a revolutionary non-antibiotic technology that is capable of treating and preventing multi-drug resistant infections. The technology is called photodisinfection, and we believe that it belongs to mankind. Photodisinfection is a light-based therapy that destroys all bacteria, all virus, and all fungus in minutes. It is an ideal infection-fighting tool to help our healthcare professionals deal with multi-drug resistant infections. Multi-drug resistance is considered to be one of the top 5 health human crises these days. The UK's O'Neill report claims that by 2050, more than 10 million people will die of infections, and that's more than cancer and cholera and diabetes combined. We hope that our non-antibiotic technology and approach can make a dent in this potential death toll, because 40% of our hospital-acquired infections are now multi-drug resistant. Our Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Nicholas Lobel, will speak later and further about this technology. Our lead technology is called Mersaid, and it is used to eradicate all pathogens in pre-surgical patients to significantly reduce surgical site infection rates. Mersaid has been used as part of a pre-operation decolonization protocol at VGH for the past 6 years, reducing the infection rate in major surgeries to one of the lowest in the world. Fewer infections not only improve outcome for patients and their families, but also free up beds for other patients to be treated more quickly. We are holding this press conference today for the first time to reveal to the entire world our life-saving technology has just been approved for use throughout the EU, Australia, New Zealand, and later on this year, expected Mexico as well. With the opening of one of the largest markets in the world, we wanted to bring our important multi-drug resistant infection-fighting technology to the attention of the public. And we are pleased to have the support and the assistance of some political leaders who are passionate about improving patient outcomes and whose experiences and knowledgeable about the healthcare systems that we have around the world. We are beyond thrilled to have their support in gaining access to worldwide markets. Today, I'm pleased to inform the world that Mr. Vicente Fox, former President of Mexico, and the Honourable Jean Charest, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada and former Premier of Quebec, have joined our board of directors to help us bring our technology to the world. From our initial trial, we've learned that patients not treated from our technology were at a 4 times higher risk of getting a surgical site infection. It is time to get this technology out into the world to benefit mankind, and I'm grateful for the support of our new board members to make this happen. No one should be suffering from healthcare-associated infections, and we believe this technology and other innovations can help drive us to a 0 infection rate at our healthcare systems. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Vicente Fox, former President of Mexico, to come up and say a few words for us. Thank you so much.
Very few occasions throughout life you find your comparative soul. You find goodwill people ready to serve the humankind. Just like Dalai Lama said once, the world belongs to all of us, all human beings. 8 billion human beings. And this becomes a great challenge for compassive leadership. And this is what we found in this great lady, Caroline, a compassionate leadership, ready to take the step ready to move on, ready to bring in health to people around the world. We know health is a strategic, crucial human need. And health, as well as health systems, are not shared equal among the 8 billion people on this earth. So taking the challenge of expanding, improving, and developing health systems throughout the world, no doubt, is a compassionate action. With what we are seeing here today, Ondine Corporation has developed vanguard technology, not only to use it in developed economies and developed nations, but vanguard technology to be brought to the rear guard, to those that don't have access to health, quality health, and that usually are paying with their lives by not having this access. My presence here has to do with the dream Matt and I share of doing for others, of being for others, which is at the end a shortcut to happiness. And these products of Ondine are a shortcut to health and to saving lives throughout the world. Not only Mexico needs a strong presence of these vanguard technologies related to health, but also all of Latin America, and not needed to say Africa. So Matt and myself are going to be working intensely with a strong commitment, with passion, to take these technologies throughout the world. This is why passion, purpose, performance is the sign of the commitment we're having, all those of us who are around Ondine and working for that better world. So I can see a bright, great future ahead, led by a great, compassionate leader, Caroline, and a team of us ready to work, ready to perform, ready to bring in this great gift to the world, and specifically, in our case, to the world poor that don't have access to these great technologies. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Carolyn, President Fox, ladies and gentlemen. I had the pleasure of meeting Carolyn several months ago through a common friend. And I was very impressed by her story and by her life and everything that you accomplished, Carolyn. And what comes to mind is one episode in your life where you were involved in a plane accident that changed your outlook on the world. I was very fascinated by the Ondine story and how you took this company, how you built it, invested in this company with your husband, Bob, and what you were seeking to do. And it reminded me of my experiences of public life. I was Premier of Quebec for almost 10 years. I remember very early on in my mandate there was a crisis in a hospital in my home area, the Eastern Townships, a difficile crisis of infection. And there's a doctor who took it upon himself to go out publicly and to tell the people and to denounce to the government, to my own government, the fact that there was this infection crisis within the hospital and that we weren't reporting it adequately and that we weren't dealing with it adequately. And it affected every single institution throughout the province of Quebec. Now, the outcome of that was a few weeks of very real controversy, debate about the consequences of infections. It was a learning experience. But what I remember from that episode, and it's what I remembered when I met you, is that all of this could have been avoided. A lot of this was not a fatality. I mean, there are things that happen in life you cannot avoid. Some of it may have to do with American politics. Some of it may have to do with something else. But there are things that we can do to avoid diseases, infections, if we put our mind to it, if we are conscious of what they represent and what the danger is, and if we just go out there and act upon it. Now, it was a very fascinating meeting for me, if only for one reason. I left political life 5 years ago, public life. I was involved for 28 years. And when you leave public life, it's always an extraordinary transition. But there's one ingredient of public life that you always seek forever after. And that's, as President Fox has so eloquently articulated, to do something meaningful. So whether you're in the private sector, I work for the law firm of McCarthy Tétrault that has an office here in Vancouver, or whether you're working in the academic sphere or anywhere else, you want to do, if you've tasted, if you've had an inclination of being active in public life, you want to do something or be involved in something that's meaningful and significant and continues to make life better for other people. And that is exactly what Ondine is going to do and is doing now. And it may sound fairly simple, but ladies and gentlemen, I think it probably is. It's about infections, hospital infections, other forms of infections that can be stopped, eradicated, people can be cured, money can be saved, and our lives are made better. Now, the other anecdote I wanted to share with you is I have the great privilege of, and you spoke of your wife, Martha, President Fox, a moment ago. My wife's called Michelle, and her father was a surgeon, general surgeon in the beautiful city of Sherbrooke, where I was born, for 30 years. And it was very helpful in my political career because I only met the patients he saved and who also were grateful and supported me. But when I started dating my wife, we were 15, 16 years old, I remember him saying something to me that quite surprised me. He said, "Jean, stay away from hospitals if you don't want to be sick." And this gentleman was a surgeon, which is sort of counterintuitive when you think of it for a moment. But when you learn about the tragedy of the infections in our world and in our healthcare system that exist, you know why he said that. Now, these technologies, and I think Nick will give you a little more detail about all of this, these technologies are going to address one of the major health care issues in the world, literally, which I wasn't aware of until I met Caroline. I mean, this is really one of the major sources of grief and of death in the world. So it's true for Africa and Mexico, Europe, and North America. And so this is something promising that must succeed. And I accepted to join the board at this point with President Fox and others because I felt that I could make a contribution to this effort and be part of it, and I'm very, very proud. Proud as a Canadian that it's also in Vancouver and in British Columbia, which is something that people from BC should pay attention to because it's happening here. And it's the people of British Columbia and your leadership, Carolyn, that has allowed this great business to start, this great mission to be pursued. So thank you very much for making me part of it, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you all for being here today. Very proud to have had a role to play over the last 10 years in development of the technology you've just heard about. In the 1960s, the U.S. Surgeon General indicated that the era of infections was behind us because we could always develop a new antibiotic. And at that time, it may have seemed true. But as you've just heard, the era of the multi-drug resistant microbe is upon us. And there are more and more people dying in hospitals and healthcare facilities worldwide because of this. The World Health Organization has drawn attention to this crisis by indicating that something as simple as a scratched knee, a finger that is contused in a car door, some mild cold can once again kill. Imagine if we move to a pre-World War II era where you can't just reach for the next antibiotic. We're into a problem of catastrophic proportions. Now, Ondine can't propose to fix that all. We will make a dent in that big problem. But we deployed this system at the largest acute care hospital, second largest hospital in Canada, Vancouver General, under the careful guidance and auspices of Dr. Elizabeth Bryce, who is the Director of Infection Control at the hospital. And over the 4 years intervening, Vancouver General has seen an enormous reduction on a percentage basis in their number of infections, down to one of the lowest levels in Canada. We've been able to be part of an infection control package that has produced hundreds of lives being saved and a larger number of people who've avoided infections. And these are very dangerous infections, infections that cost tens of thousands of dollars to fix and can often lead to lifelong issues with morbidities and problems with allergic responses and disturbances in the microbiome. We've developed a very simple approach. We were fortunate enough to hear a retrospective presentation from Vancouver General yesterday, where the elements of the technique became evident even more clearly than we had anticipated. The speed of the technique, just a few minutes, the thorough disinfection across all microorganisms, fungus, virus, bacteria, and most importantly, the ease with which it's deployed, the lack of compliance required with an antibiotic regimen, the simplicity of deployment in a patient creates this extraordinary response in the healthcare provider. This is something we need. And it took us a number of years to really ensure that we knew that this was possible. And it's now time to deploy it across the world, as you just heard. The system is something that I've been very pleased to develop with a team of people at Ondine that have been superb, and we've developed a company that is capable of doing this. We're capable of deploying worldwide, and we're starting to work with much larger corporations to see the system evolve and develop even further. And there are no limits. While we're treating hospital-acquired infections today or reducing their incidence, we aim to reduce infections in ventilator tubes, in burns and wounds. We're looking at a variety of sinus disease problems, in periodontal disease. So look for some more developments from our company as the years go by, as we displace antibiotics and ensure the safety of patients is maintained and that we preserve for mankind this legacy of antibiotics which must not be deployed. And I want to thank President Fox and Mr. Charest and Carolyn in particular for the opportunity to be involved in such an adventure. Thank you.
We strongly believe that with the right team around us, we can do miracles. Infection is a tragedy of the common. It is a global issue that we need to take a stand on. The only way we can deal with this is to collaborate and to tackle this problem together. We have established a hashtag so that you can follow us. Please join us at hashtag No More Problems and hashtag Infection Knows No Borders. Infection knows no borders. There are no walls to protect us from infections. This is really important, and we need each and every one of you to help us. We once again thank our new board members for their support, and we look forward to taking this technology around the world. Thank you very much for coming today.
So is this product now being used in Canada, in British Columbia, in the hospitals right now as we have this press conference?
We have three different products that are available in Canada, and we have been observing the impact on safety, on efficacy, and we have not really commercialized it, but they are available in British Columbia right now, and we're now approaching the point where we are ready to take that commercial around the world.
So that's that's essentially what you're announcing here, is that you want to now go international.
That's correct.
So you're past clinical trials and it's ready to go.
Right. And we're also pursuing an FDA strategy as well. Obviously, the U.S. market, the largest in the world, is critical to our commercial and global success. We will be starting that program in later part of this year for these 3 products that we're bringing to the market today.
So this product will be like implemented within the system of the hospital system in terms of surgery? How will it be used? You know, in addition to what's already being used as protocols for disinfection and sterilization.
What we have is a platform technology that kills all bugs, whether they're bacteria, virus, or fungus. We have several applications, and one of those applications have been designed to reduce significantly surgical site infections. And the reason why that's an important product is because we've been using an awful lot of antibiotics preventatively to reduce infection rates, and those that still occur are by default multi-drug resistant. And they do occur because one of the last reservoirs of infection is the patient's own nose. It's very difficult to eliminate multi-spectrum of pathogens that are residing in the patient's nose. Many studies have demonstrated that when you reduce the bugs in the nose of the patient before surgery, you can reduce hospital-acquired infections by about 40 to 60%. And that's what we, in fact, have observed on a sustained basis at Vancouver General Hospital.
So will this also save the use or overuse of antibiotics? How would it be used? As a complementary treatment?
Today, many patients are treated with an antibiotic in the nose to reduce the number of microbes before surgery or after surgery in the intensive care unit. One of our aims is to displace that antibiotic or at least reduce its use so that it can be preserved for more dangerous cases or for other implementations. So we will directly reduce the number of antibiotics being used. And the same is true in all of our other indications. Where antibiotics may have been deployed as a preferred course, we'd like to reduce that use. And in fact, if you look across all of the avenues that we're intending to commercialize within, we, in each case, topically, not systemically, we aim to reduce any antibiotic usage whatsoever. And that, of course, is consistent with the preservation of antibiotics for very dangerous internal conditions.
The issue is that new antibiotics are costing more than $2 billion and taking 15 years. And that is such an economic disincentive that new antibiotics are not being creative. The folks at Davos were even talking about creating a $1 billion prize to incentivize new antibiotics. But when we go into the hospitals, we are now at risk for ever more potent and threatening infections. And when we do have those infections, we now need multiple antibiotics, and even those are starting to fail. And as our people are getting older, and as we're having more and more body parts replaced as we're living older, we're at risk. And every time we have a surgery and we're getting full of vancomycin, the next possible infection could be deadly. And that's something that we all have to think about. We are traveling more, we're eating food from around the world. Unfortunately, there's a lot of antibiotics being used as growth promoters to stimulate growth, and that is trickling into our food supplies as well as into our groundwater. Our water purification systems are not capable of eliminating the residual antibiotics that we're consuming. And all in all, we're getting more and more resistant. And dead bugs are teaching the live bugs through genetic transference what has killed them. Our bodies pretty much don't change, but bacteria are. And we have to be very mindful of this threat that we have within. They've been talking about it since the 60s, when antibiotics were in their heyday. And I'm also tracking, as an idea, that the rise of antibiotic use is also tracking, for me, the rise of cancer. I'm wondering out loud whether there is a correlation that when we mess up our microbiome, if there isn't an impact on our serious conditions in our life, the more we can take down and preserve antibiotics, the better. And if we can address the topical antibiotics effectively, instantly, rapidly, without requiring patient compliance, then we think that we have a winner. That needs to be out there globally. And as President Fox had mentioned, this is a technology that's economically efficient and that should be brought to all parts of the world. And that's why we're very interested in learning about his experiences and how to open the door to Latin America and Africa and India and China. And we're looking forward to having some successes in implementation there.
I'm just wondering, because it kills bacteria, but also understand bacteria have a role to play. Some are good, some are bad. So how does it differentiate? How, because I don't understand the treatment, so that's why I'm asking.
Thank you. That's a very good question. We were born with a large number of bacteria that were necessary for our development, and today we maintain that culture of bacteria called the microbiome needed for health. So your question goes to what happens when all the bugs get killed, do bad bugs come back in? We've developed the technique in such a way that we eliminate the bad bugs first, and we leave behind good bugs, and that happens in the mouth, it happens in the nose. There are ways in which your body will repopulate its microbiome in such a way as to make sure that you get commensal, meaning good bacteria, back first, with the pathogens coming in more slowly. They're often evolved species that require other bacteria in place just to exist. Depending on how we deploy this therapy, we can sterilize a surface, or we can leave behind a certain number of microbes, and we've actually found the latter is a better technique, where a certain amount of kill produces a respite, produces some time for the body to reassert its normal immune defenses, reset the clock as it were, and then provide for a better recovery. And because the system doesn't produce resistance itself, it can be reapplied. So we're finding it more appropriate to go a little bit lighter, no nuclear bombs, and then repeat the use when needed.
And how long a period of time would that be in between so you could see results?
We've seen results from a single treatment that lasts 6 to 9 months in the sinus. We've seen that in the oral cavity. We certainly think that it's somewhere in the many-month time frame, up to a year or more.
La compagnie Ondine est une compagnie qui s'est fixée comme mission d'éradiquer les infections. C'est une mission qui est tout à fait simple. Les infections qui affectent les patients qui font l'objet d'une opération, par exemple, qui sont dans les hôpitaux, les cliniques, les centres hospitaliers de soins de longue durée, c'est une des principales causes de mortalité. Et c'est une cause de mortalité évitable, à la condition de s'attaquer aux infections avec des méthodes qui sont nouvelles. Et donc, la compagnie fondée par Caroline Crass s'est fixée donc comme but de développer avec ses équipes de chercheurs des médicaments qui vont éradiquer en quelque sorte les microbes, les mauvais microbes, et qui vont éviter surtout l'utilisation abusive d'antibiotiques qui sont de moins en moins efficaces parce que les microbes comme tels évoluent et deviennent résistants également aux antibiotiques. Alors moi, j'ai accepté de me joindre avec le président Fox du Mexique au conseil d'administration parce que c'est une mission que je trouve absolument essentielle au bien-être de l'humanité, d'une part. D'autre part, parce que nos expériences préalables à nous, nous rappellent que les dépenses en santé pour les gouvernements, au Québec, par exemple, c'est proche de 50 % des dépenses de programme, de ce que nous payons, vous et moi, en impôts, d'une part. Et d'autre part, parce que dans mon expérience, j'ai appris, lorsque j'étais premier ministre, lorsqu'il y a eu une crise du C difficile dans le réseau de la santé, que nous pouvons éviter les infections, que nous pouvons poser des gestes pour réduire substantiellement les infections. Et là, le président Fox et moi, on a quitté la vie publique, mais on est tous les deux un peu dans la même position. On ne cherche pas de travail, on ne cherche pas des choses à faire. Beaucoup de gens nous offrent des occasions de collaborer à des projets, mais on aimerait bien, puis on aime bien participer à des projets où on a le sentiment et qu'il y a derrière ça une cause sociale très importante. Et c'est exactement ce que fait la compagnie Ondine. Ici, c'est une entreprise de la Colombie-Britannique en plus, une entreprise canadienne, mais dont le siège social est à Vancouver. Et le développement s'est fait avec des gens de la Colombie-Britannique. Voilà.
Je vais vous demander si vous avez un commentaire sur le discours du président des États-Unis hier soir.
Bien, je n'ai pas eu l'occasion. Je l'ai lu ce matin, le discours. De ce que j'en décode, le ton est peut-être un ton meilleur que ce que nous attendions de la part de M. Trump. Sur les messages en ce qui concerne le Canada et le commerce, c'est un message neutre, ce qui pour nous est un message qui est bon, surtout à la fin de la ronde de négociation de Montréal. Et vous savez, le président Trump, sur la question de l'ALENA, il souffle le chaud et le froid. C'est des montagnes russes. Un jour, c'est bon, ça évolue. L'autre jour, tout est mauvais. Alors donc, dans la mesure où le président Trump nous permet aux négociations d'évoluer, de progresser, tant qu'à moi, c'est une bonne nouvelle. Le temps est notre allié dans les négociations. Nous irons bientôt, le président Fox pourra en parler avec beaucoup plus de détails que moi, mais il y aura des élections à la fois présidentielles et législatives au Mexique le 1er juillet prochain. Ce sera les midterms américains. Alors, le temps, à mon avis, va favoriser un résultat qui est plus favorable pour le Canada que si le président annulait purement et simplement l'ALENA. Voilà. Merci beaucoup.
You know, twin souls and good people finally converge and meet. So I didn't know Caroline in the past, but this challenge brought us together. And brought us together because, in a way, I'm representing those nations, those economies that, although have strongly improved its health systems, like it is the case of Mexico, where we have 100% Medicare coverage, as you have here in Canada, which the United States doesn't have. Having the coverage not necessarily means having the quality. And having the quality assurance system by which hospitals, nurses, doctors have the capacity to avoid infection. So the rate of infections here would be 3%, let's say. In our Latin American countries and Mexico could very well be 6%, double. So this is double opportunity to bring in this technology to Mexico, Latin America, countries like Africa. That's why we are so highly motivated. Many, many lives are going to be saved by these technologies developed here in Canada, here in Vancouver. We should be a motive of pride to this city, to this province, and to this country. This is a great gift to the world, and we're going to make sure that we take this gift and bring it to millions of people, Mexico, Latin America, and others. The other point is that our health system, for instance, in Mexico, being 100%, also has problems with the quality and the quality assurance. So the way we're going to impact the lives of so many people there is what attracted us. I'm dedicated to foundations. I'm not in business. I'm not in politics anymore. But I love to find this kind of great things for humankind.